Hello, my name is Annika Alice, and today I'm going to clear up the confusion between yarn over, yarn forward, yarn over the needle, yarn round the needle. I do apologise for my voice. I do have a bit of a cold and my voice is a bit croaky, but hopefully you can still hear what I'm saying. So I knit the Continental way, but I'm also going to show you what to do if you knit the English way. If you knit Eastern methods or combination knitting, you may have to adjust it to suit your knitting style. This is really based for Continental knitters and English style knitters. Making a yarn over yarn forward is basically making a new stitch. So you're increasing a stitch. Making a new stitch by making a hole. You just take the yarn basically just goes over your right needle from front to back. That is the yarn over yarn forward. That's all there is. It just goes from front to back. The next stitch is its own stitch. Now you can't do yarn overs or yarn forward at the end of the row because there's nothing to secure the yarn. You can do it at the beginning of the row, but remember, yarn over is just that, just the yarn over the needle. Now where the confusion comes in, it depends on what stitch comes before or after. So you got a knit stitch before and a knit stitch afterwards, knit before, purl afterwards, purl before, knit afterwards, or purl before and purl afterwards. And especially if you use the English style knitting, that makes a big difference to how you read the instructions. And that's also where the different terms yarn forward, yarn over the needle and yarn round the needle comes from. So according to my understanding, Americans tend to mainly call this stitch yarn over. In the UK we tend to use yarn forward if it's between two knit stitches, yarn over the needle and yarn round a needle if it's between knit and purl stitches or purl and knit stitches. Now I can never remember which term to use for what, so I decided to take the American approach and just use yarn over for all of those. So if I say yarn over, and I'm going to use yarn over for the rest of this video, I mean any stitch that takes the yarn over the right needle to create a hole, basically. Okay, so I'm going to show you how to do it Continental style first. So if I've knitted the previous stitch, if I'm going to do a yarn over now and I'm knitting the next stitch, if I knit the Continental way, all I need to do is lift my working yarn over the right needle like that, and then I can go ahead and knit the next stitch. Okay, so I can do that again. So if I'm doing Continental, if I'm knitting the Continental way and I'm doing yarn over between two knit stitches, I just take my working yarn over the right needle and then I'm ready to knit the next stitch. If I knit the English way, then my yarn will be in my right hand. Now please bear in mind that I am not very good, I'm not a very good English knitter, so this is a little bit clumsy for me. So I've knitted a stitch and I'm going to knit the next stitch. So what I do is I take the yarn between the needles to the front, which is why it's called yarn forward, because that's what I basically do. Take the yarn between the needles to the front. So I'm basically holding it like I would do if I was going to purl the next stitch, but instead I'm going to knit the next stitch. Now if you look, see what happens as I go to knit the next stitch. Can you see how the yarn goes over that right needle? Not only am I not very good at English knitting, I'm also doing this with my hands around the camera, so it's a bit difficult. So that's my yarn over. So I take the yarn between the needles to the front, and then as I knit the next stitch, that yarn ends up coming over my right needle. If you're new to lace knitting and you're doing this for the first time, just do check that you get a little hole there. I think you can see that there. Okay, so that's knit stitch, yarn overs between two knit stitches. So say I'm going to do a purl stitch afterwards. So we'll do it the Continental way first. So I've knitted the next stitch, the yarn's at the back, take the yarn over the right needle. Now if I purled the regular Continental way, then I will purl with the yarn at the front. So I take the yarn over the right needle and then I take the yarn to the front, ready to do my purl stitch. Now it is quite easy to pull the yarn over off the needle, so if you do that, just make sure you hold on to the yarn over so you don't lose it. Now if you purl the Norwegian way, you purl with the yarn at the back. So you take the yarn over the right hand needle and then you take the right needle behind the working yarn into the next stitch and then purl. So that's the Norwegian purl. Now if you knit the English way, your yarn is in the right hand. Now if you're going to do yarn over, if you're going to do yarn over, you do that. So you take the yarn to the front. If you are going to do a purl stitch next, you do the same thing. You take the yarn to the front. So basically, if I do that, if I do yarn over, then I think, well, I'm going to purl the next stitch, my yarn's in the right place, I actually lose that yarn over. So what I have to do, if you knit the English way, is you take the yarn between the needles to the front for the yarn over, that's your yarn over, then you take the yarn between the needles again to get ready for the purl stitch. So the yarn's actually wrapped around one complete time. So you go to the front for the yarn over, and then around the back and to the front again, so you're ready for the purl stitch, and then you purl the next stitch, and there you got the yarn over and the purl stitch. So let's carry on with the English method. I've now purled a stitch, and if my next stitch, I'm going to do a yarn over, and if my next stitch is a knit stitch, I can just leave the yarn where it is, because the yarn's at the front after the knit stitch. If I leave the yarn there and knit the next stitch, I automatically get the yarn over there. You see that? Let me just undo that and do that again. Now, if I purl the stitch, normally I would take the yarn to the back after I finish purling. To do a yarn over, I take the yarn to the front again. So if you're doing a yarn over after a purl stitch, just leave your yarn there and then do whatever comes next. So if my next stitch is a knit stitch, I just go into the next stitch and knit it. If my next stitch, however, is a purl stitch, then if I go in and purl it from there, then I'm going to lose the yarn over, because the yarn's going to go through that needle and become the purl stitch, and I need it to go over to the back before it becomes the purl stitch. So I need to do the same thing that I did when I purled after a yarn over after a knit stitch. So yarn's already in front after my last purl stitch, so if I leave it there, that's my yarn over, then I take it to the back and to the front again, ready for the purl stitch, and then I can purl the next stitch and I still get the yarn over there. Okay, so if I have purled a stitch and I'm doing continental purl with the yarn at the front, then I have to do the same thing. I have to go over the right needle and then back to the front again. Now use your finger just to make sure that it stays there for the purl stitch. If I do the Norwegian purl, then my yarn will already be at the back after my purl stitch. So I just go over the right hand needle, behind the working yarn, into the purl stitch, and then I purl it. Okay, so basically yarn over the needle, yarn around the needle, and yarn forward and yarn over is all the same thing. It's making a loop to make an extra stitch, it's making a hole basically, which is the holes you get in lace knitting. So you have to think about what stitch comes before. So yarn over is basically yarn over the needle like that. That's all it is. Regardless of how you knit, that's all there is. So you have to think about what stitch comes before. If you're knitting beforehand, your yarn will be at the back, so you need to take the yarn to the front, which is what I'm doing here, or the English way. And then you have to think about what stitch comes next. So if you're going to purl the next stitch, then you have to put your yarn or your needles into the correct position that you need to actually purl. So if I'm doing an English purl, I need to take the yarn to the back, to the back and around to the front again, so I can purl the next stitch. If I'm doing a continental purl, yarn over, and then I need to take the yarn to the front to purl the next stitch. If I do a Norwegian purl, yarn over, and then I take the needle behind the yarn in order to purl the next stitch. I hope that clears up a few questions. If you have any questions, please ask below this video or ask in the accompanying blog post. This is part of the Monday mini tip tutorial series. You can find all the rest of the Monday mini tip tutorials and all my other tutorials on my website at www.yarnaddict.co.uk, and I will put a link below to the blog post that accompanies this video. Thank you for watching.